Hi, this is Dave from Steel City Drones Flight Academy, along with Michael McVeigh from Florida Drone Supply, who is one of my lead trainers. That we're out here in near Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, and we're out here training some law enforcement and public safety officials on a bunch of 210 RTKs, and we also have a brand new 210 V2 out here with us, and we wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible because, Michael, this came out of the blue here, really. They were really, this hit everybody out of nowhere. So, and now the older version aircraft are no longer available.
Correct.
So we want to make sure that we go over a lot of the functionality and the changes and of what's no longer valid for the first model. So the first thing we'll say is that if you haven't seen our original video, our product review on the M200 and M210 series, on your screen you'll see the title and the link to be able just to click on our YouTube channel and take a look at that. We have an extremely big comprehensive video showing all the functionalities of this aircraft. It's over 20 minutes long. It's done really, really well for the past couple of years. Everybody's very happy with the way how thorough that is. So there's no sense in reinventing a lot of the wheels on here. So we're just gonna talk about the changes and the updates and the new features that, that are on here. Michael, let's talk about OcuSync first. A lot of people have questions about that, and that's probably a good way to start out.
Yep, great idea. The new aircraft now has moved away from the light bridge, and the version 2 of all of the M210 series, the 200, the 210, and the 210 RTK, all use OcuSync 2. And one of the big features of that is the 256-bit encryption. It'll give you better data security, and
right.
OcuSync 2 is going to give you a longer range and a better signal quality across the board.
Now, guys, we're going to start out by saying what I don't like about this feature is that now you have a Sendence remote that it comes with. However, it's not compatible with the older Sendence remotes. And it's also no longer compatible with the Inspire 2 remotes. Now, I hate that. I am not a fan by any means of this remote at all, especially for with law enforcement agents. There's too many buttons, knobs, switches that you can accidentally bump. I know it's a very robust piece of equipment. I've always liked recommending my clients, especially when they're using 2-camera operation, to be able to use the Inspire 2 remote.
Sure.
We can no longer do that now. And you want to do 2-camera operations with it, you can't use an older version. You have to go with the newer one.
Yeah, that's the difference in the transmission technology. All the other stuff was compatible and worked together. If you go to the new version, which is the only one available now, you have to use OcuSync 2 remotes as well as the aircraft.
Michael, so on the subject of data security, there's a lot of clients out there that are, have been hesitant to use DJI because they're afraid of the data getting out there into the wrong hands of people. Can you be a little more specific on, how better it is, or exactly what's different about it?
Sure. Well, there's two things. The first thing that's different is OcuSync 2 and the data encryption. So worrying about your data being stolen out of the sky, the 256-bit encryption is a big improvement for that.
Okay.
As far as worrying about DJI getting information from your drone or information being sent back to China, DJI introduced a new feature, and it's available on the older drones as well, to go to local data mode, where
yes.
the aircraft will not connect to the internet, it will not transmit data. So for law enforcement and people that have sensitive data, the 256-bit encryption is a great improvement for data security while it's in the air, and local data mode keeps nothing going back to China.
So what we can tell you about this aircraft is that it's very similar to the original M200 and M210. It's just about, it's almost identical frame. This is the original GPC case that we use for the older versions, and it does fit in here. It's just ever so slightly a tight fit.
Yeah, and that comes from the redesign of the front gimbal. The dual gimbal mount has been redesigned to be a little bit more aerodynamic. It's, kind of angled off to the sides, and that makes it just fit in the case slightly tight, but GPC has told us that this will be the case for both versions.
So we have flown this out on numerous occasions since we've been out here. Different locations, different applications of trying to use this for different things. So I can tell you, when I've done a lot of flying with it, It definitely flies the same. There's no difference in flying how it flies. It flies exactly the same as the original version and original aircraft. What I can tell you is, Michael, my number one thing I like the most about this drone is the beacons. We have, and this now has a built-in strobe light on the top of the aircraft and on the bottom of the aircraft. So we've always recommended to our public agency clients that want to use this at night. We've had some options to be able to do a stick on top of this, and that's worked out pretty decent. Nothing for underneath it though as well. But I mean, as you see on your screen, when we were flying this out over in the middle of the day, I was blown away by how well it worked. I mean, it was by far a superior upgrade compared to the units that we were using for brightness, and just being able to see that out there. I really think that's so it's not even necessarily usable for just night. You can use this during the day and to be able to maintain line of sight or be able to maintain that visibility of the drone much, much better. That's a great feature that I really like about it. And Michael, let's talk about how the beacon itself can be turned on and off through the app.
Right. I was just going to ask you that same thing. Didn't you like how they built that in with there's a little button in the top corner. You turn the light on, you turn the light off. The other ones, we've tried to wire some of them in the back, and now that'll leave that back power port open for something else, because with a click of a button, you turn the strobes on, you turn them off, and you can see them great in the day. They're great for at night.
Exactly. So there's one feature when this product was released that everyone found out exactly what the specs are that really was very polarizing. So many people out there were extremely upset about the one feature I'm about to talk about, and that's the TB55 batteries. Everybody, please know that this aircraft can support TB55 batteries and no longer will work with TB50 batteries. Now, Michael, there's a lot of pros and cons to that. A lot of pros, I feel, because if you think about it, when you're flying this aircraft and you're flying two sensors, you want that extra battery time. I mean, the battery time when you're really loading it down with TB50 batteries is going to be anywhere from 15 to 18 minutes, and a lot of people don't like that. So the TB55 batteries are going to give you a significant more amount of flight time, but it comes with a price. No pun intended.
Right.
The TB55 batteries are over double what the TB50 batteries cost. So if you're looking to buy an additional 4 or 5 pairs of batteries, that may be a deal breaker whether or not you can afford all the functionality and all the accessories for this. Now, the other part of that is that it's going to make it a little more difficult to be able to travel with it. You cannot take more than 2 TB55 batteries on board with you as carry-on. That's the limit. Where the TB50s, you could take endless amounts. Doesn't matter. They were under 100 watt hours, right?
Correct. They kept them right under the.
Exactly. They did that for a purpose so that you could travel with them. So if you need to, go out of, travel and fly, you're going to have to most likely, unless you're traveling on a big crew or something like that.
2 per person.
Exactly. You're most likely going to have to package them up and send them out in advance. It's something that people are just going to have to get used to. There's really no way around that. So the TB55 batteries only working with this aircraft is a bit of an issue. Now, DJI has made this aircraft, the 200 and the 210, available to be able to be compatible with the X7 camera.
There's really 2 people that really like the X7 camera. There's the people that are photographers and like to have one drone to do all their commercial work and their inspection work and be able to put an X7 camera on there and go use it for photography. And then I think it's the high resolution mappers, the crime scene mappers, things like that, where with the X7, we move up in size from a micro 4/3 sensor up to a super 35. So we have a much bigger sensor.
Yes.
We have 20% more pixels, and because the sensor is so much bigger, those pixels are a lot larger, which helps with low light capture.
Exactly.
So if you're flying in the night, or you're flying real early or real late, much better low light, much bigger sensor, much better pixels, more resolution.
Yeah, and the X7 camera has the ability to be able to use interchangeable lenses.
Correct.
So you want to talk about what lenses are available for the X7?
Yeah, there's 4 lenses. You have to use the DJI X7 lenses, and they come in a 16 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, a 35, and a 50. And when you're comparing them to a full frame camera sensor, the crop factor or the multiplication factor is 1.5. So the 50 becomes like a 75, which is not quite as long as the 45 that became a 90 on a Micro Four Thirds like the X5S.
Right.
But
So,
great lenses.
but yeah, if you want that higher resolution, it is available on here.
Absolutely. Can I tell you one more thing that takes a little bit of the complexity out of this aircraft?
Absolutely.
So DJI, you know, over the years, there's been lots of different ways that we've done our firmware updates with DJI. We used to put them on micro SD cards and listen for tones to stop beeping or change patterns.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then when we got the DJI Assistant or the Assistant 2, that really helped, and now we plugged everything into our computers and that made it easier. But there's firmware on the aircraft, there's still firmware on the cameras, there's firmware on the batteries, there's firmware on the remote, the Crystal Sky, the apps. With the new line of aircraft, DJI has introduced a one-touch software update feature where you press the button in the Pilot app one time and it upgrades your entire system. So,
and for our audience who has not gone through the experience of anything like this, let me just tell you this much. There is firmware for firmware for firmware on here. I mean, every component has firmware. The aircraft, the batteries, the remotes, the apps, especially on the big one is the batteries too as well. So, whereas now you'd have to go through a multiple step setup process. Just by hitting one button on your app, you can't, I mean, makes it so much better on there. So if you haven't experienced that yet, they're taking that painful experience out of the equation on the new versions.
And I think they're really listening to our public safety clients who don't fly drones for a living like some of our drone operators. They fly every single day. That's what their jobs are. But if you're in public safety, like a fire department that we're out here training now, if that's not your everyday job and you have to try to figure out software and updates and try to keep up with this stuff, they've really tried to make it more user-friendly, especially for the enterprise user.
Exactly. Another feature that the new M210 RTK system has is upgraded design on the RTK pucks, very similar to what I guess the design of the Phantom 4 Pro RTKs were going into. So DJI, when they release something new, they kind of almost go with that on a couple of models and trying to simulate the same packaging kind of a thing. Yep. And that's where it kind of also falls on the 210 now. The base station on the original 210 RTK system, basically all you did was get a real small base station that you put on your own tripod.
Right.
So now they have a robust, if you haven't seen our Phantom 4 Pro RTK video yet, see that. That's also, you could also see how similar this technology is going. But you can also see that what's the main feature probably is the ability to use N-Trip. And that's a significant change. So you want to talk a little bit about so for those that don't know what N-Trip is, why don't you explain that?
Sure. N-Trip is a way to use cellular service to be your error correction network for your RTK system. There's other ways to do it with ground control points and post-processing, but N-Trip really makes it very easy to connect to a local cellular error correction network and stream those corrections right to your camera so that you get exact positioning on your GPS system. And it doesn't take a lot of setup. You don't have to bring out set survey monuments. You don't have to set ground control points.
Right.
It really makes it easy.
Michael, why don't you talk about how the cost on these new units has gone up, but also explain pretty much why it's gone up.
Yep, so you will find that there is a price increase between version 1 and version 2, but the big factor that is causing the price increase is Enterprise Shield.
Yes.
So if you don't know what Enterprise Shield is, or you've heard of DJI Care Refresh, Enterprise Shield is like the DJI Care Refresh for the Enterprise line of products. So if you have something that happens to your aircraft, be it a fault of your own, someone knocks it off your truck, drops it, you have a crash, you have a failure of any type, in the first year you can have your aircraft replaced twice. There's a small fee associated with it, but they did this to make sure that the user experience with this aircraft is excellent. So DJI wants to make sure throughout your first year, you have a perfect experience or as close to perfect as possible. And if anything goes wrong, they get you a new one.
Now that's a really significant development because for those who wanted to get that protection plan on the original aircraft, it was more money.
It was very expensive.
Very expensive. So they brought that pricing down, and they're just including that, rolling it into here.
Yep.
And other things too now, there's a couple other little things that they're doing here is that on the 210 and the 210 RTK, it came with the top mount plate on there. Yep. So now a lot of people never use that top mount plate because basically, in my opinion, I think the only application you would want to use it for would be bridge inspections and things of that nature where you definitely cannot want to get any part of the boom in there.
Right.
But that's really limited. I don't think too many people, it's a lower amount of clients that would want to use that. So instead of keeping it in there and continuing to have the price on there, they lowered that as well and made it as an option.
Correct.
So if you want more of a background into what this aircraft can still do, please, if you haven't checked out our original product review, also just check that out as well. And we are, obviously, like we always do, we support this. We offer training packages on this. So if you want, if you're thinking about getting this and you want to be able to know how to use it, thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions, please contact myself or Michael. Michael got you covered on the equipment side. I got you covered on the training side. And until next time, we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thanks.